It's exactly 1 year since Hamas militants attacked Israel, killing 1,200 people and taking 251 hostages. Israel invaded Gaza following the attacks on October the 7th. More than 41,000 people have been killed by Israeli forces in the territory during the invasion. According to the Hamas-run health ministry, that death toll includes more than 16,000 children. Earlier in the programme, we heard from Dr. Jilan Wabda Abdelmajid, who is the Palestinian ambassador to Ireland, and she said after 1 year of war, Gaza is unlivable, but the people still believe in self-determination and want to stay.
Maybe the first thing that I could see that Gaza, after a year of bombardment and this brutality and barbarism, I could see that still the majority of its people there suffering, but still believe that they belong to this land and they don't want to leave. However, Israel destroy everything that could cause stability or living.
David Mencer is with us this morning, an Israeli government spokesperson for the Office of the Prime Minister. Good morning. I wonder how you reflect on this anniversary today. David, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I didn't hear your question, though.
No, that's okay. No, I was just asking you how you are reflecting on this anniversary today of October the 7th.
Well, thank you for having me on, Sarah. Of course, none of us that live here can fail to have been terribly moved, shaken, traumatized, actually, by the Hamas invasion. I noticed in your introduction, Sarah, that you called them militants. You can't even bring yourself to call them terrorists. And that's an insult to the more than 1,200 people which Hamas, a terrorist organization, as designated by the UK government, did to our people. The things that they did to our people only have their match in the trauma caused by in the 1930s and the 1940s by the Holocaust. The difference is that Hamas filmed their crimes, and what you can hear, never mind the images which are traumatic, what you can hear in those images is the euphoric joy and pleasure they took in the killing and in the rapes and in the beheadings and in the murders of men and women and elderly and children. So all of us here are most definitely traumatized. This is a very, very difficult year, but I must say to you, Sarah, it is still an outrage that the BBC refuses to call what is clearly a terrorist organization terrorists for what they are. My children, when they don't go to bed on time, are militant. This is a terrorist organization. The government has made it its objective to destroy it, to make sure that it can never again reign over Gaza, and to give Gazans the freedom which they seek, to allow them to run their own lives, never mind our own lives, security for us, to allow Gazans to run their own lives.
Can I ask you a little bit then about what Israel is doing currently? It is expanding its military operations on multiple fronts in Lebanon, Gaza, Syria and beyond. People are wondering, is in fact 1 year on just the start of what Israel has planned?
So before I do that, Sarah, can I give you the opportunity to recant what you say and call Hamas a terrorist organization, as your own government calls them?
I respect that you have that opinion, David Mencer, but it is not my role to say one way or the other. I am an interviewer, and I am interviewing you as an individual and a representative of the Israeli government today about the 1 year anniversary of the atrocities that were perpetrated in your country and Israel's response since. I am not here to talk to you about my opinions or the role of the BBC, okay? So if we could just proceed on that basis, I would be much, much appreciative of it. So Israel is expanding its military operations on multiple fronts. Is this just the beginning?
I believe that it remains an outrage that the BBC will not call Hamas a terrorist organization. I think it's a shocking
I've got that. Can you please move on, and can you please just address the question?
I'll move on, Sarah, when I'm ready to move on. My country experienced the worst trauma in the last, since this country was established 76 years ago. Obviously, we've got a 3,000-year link to this country. These are crimes which only can be have their match in the Holocaust, and we have a duty to defend ourselves. So when it comes to the rest of your questions, I would say that this country has a duty to defend itself. We have a duty to bring home all of our hostages in the south, 101 of them. We know that 36 have been killed by Hamas. The rest we believe are alive. We spent every waking moment trying to get them out. We want to return all of our residents to their homes in the north, and we want to ensure the enduring safety and the eternity of this country as the only homeland for the Jewish people anywhere in the world, a place of safety. We are bringing back that safety to this country. We have an Israeli Defense Forces now, and they're doing their job and defending this country.
Huge blasts in Beirut overnight, further attacks in Gaza. Can you give us a sense of when the operation in Lebanon will end? 2,000 people have died in just over a week.
So our objective is to return our residents to the north. We've had 60 to 70,000 of our people evicted from their homes. I can't begin to tell you what that must feel like for residents in their own sovereign country, here in Israel, evicted from their homes because of more than 10,000 rockets and drones from Hezbollah. We've begged the government of Lebanon over the last year. It's been going on for a year now. The Hezbollah joined this terrorist action. I bet you can't even call Hezbollah a terrorist organization either. We begged the government of Lebanon to take control of their country, to ensure that Hezbollah is not running the area just next to our border. It's in compliance of UN Resolution 1701. The UN are not doing its job. Certainly the government of Lebanon is not doing its job. We begged them. We've gone through diplomacy. We've tried our hardest through every single means, and I've mentioned it many times over international airways as well, to push Hezbollah back from our northern border, to bring peace back to the residents of this region. Lebanon have refused. Hezbollah have continued to fight. But we know, of course, that behind all of this is Iran.
That's my next
Prime Minister
question to you, actually,
sure,
if that's okay. Emmanuel Macron, for example, has said that he wants an immediate embargo on arms to Israel for use in Gaza. But Joe Biden has been talking about the strikes, any retaliation against Iran, which the Israeli government are planning, that it should not include nuclear installations. He's also warned against oil fields being struck. Do you think that the government will listen to that and take that into account?
The government will always listen to our closest ally,
will they heed
the
it?
US, which have stood by us through thick and thin, side by side, shoulder to shoulder. They're our partners, and we work extremely closer than ever before. And the US understands that our responsibility, indeed the responsibility of every responsible government, is first and foremost to defend its citizens. Iran, in a square in Tehran, there is a clock counting down the end of Israel. Iran is the only country. I don't see this about the Iranian people. It's very important to distinguish the regime in Iran, not the Iranian people. The regime in Iran. They are threatening to destroy this country. They're counting down till that moment. And we have a duty to defend ourselves. Now, when you're asking me what action will be taken, let me answer you this way. Israel knows about the capabilities of Iran. We know about all of their structures inside Iran, and we know precisely how to deter and to defend this country, and that's precisely what we will do.
Can I ask you this then, just to be a little bit more specific on the point of nuclear installations? Can Israel actually attack Iran's nuclear strongholds successfully without America's military help? Because there are military analysts that say that you cannot.
As I said to you before, and I'll repeat what I said, I won't be discussing our plans to defend this country over the airways, especially on the BBC. But what I will tell you is that we have a duty to defend ourselves. The Prime Minister made clear in his speech at the United Nations General Assembly in New York just last week that Iran is not only a threat to this country, we're in their neighborhood, but they hate democracy. They hate countries like the UK. They're after us here. But make no mistake, Sarah, they're after you in the UK as well. Make no mistake, they hate democracies, they hate freedom. They have publicly stated that they wish to destroy my country. Now, the experience of Jewish people, let me share this with you, Sarah, is that when people say they wish to annihilate this country, when they say they wish to kill our people, when they say they wish to push our nation off the face of the earth, we believe them, Sarah. They mean it when they say it. We believe them. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's just hyperbole for you. We believe them. We have a duty to defend ourselves, and that is precisely what we will do.
And just finally, more than 40,000 people have died in Gaza in this last year, and 2,000, as I mentioned earlier, in just a couple of weeks in Lebanon. The vast majority of the dead are not militants or terrorists, as you would call them. The vast majority of them are women and children. So how do you reflect on that massive loss of life?
So I would reflect in the following way, that this was a war which was started by Hamas. They embedded their entire military structure inside their cities and towns and villages. So every single death which happened inside Gaza is solely the responsibility of the terrorist organization. Now, the figures which you quoted, they are Hamas figures. Let me share with you our figures. We know that Hamas, as an organization, was around 40,000 terrorists, the word which you can't say, terrorists. We know that we have either taken off the battlefield or killed more than half of those people. Now, the military experts, not the Hamas propagandists, the military experts all say the same thing.
Your military experts, it is disputed, David Mencer. It is disputed. I don't have time to go go into that. But
I've got time if you've got time.
No, we don't. We have quite a busy programme ahead of us. I do appreciate
you asked me a question and I answered it.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate that. And those figures are disputed. But thank you, David Mencer, who's an Israeli government spokesperson for the Office of the Prime Minister.